Serious revelations keep coming from the release of the Epstein files. One are 18 emails from an FBI informant based in Mexico to an NYPD detective. In one of those emails, he questions whether or not the NYPD detective had shared information about the sex trafficking trial that he was connected with in Mexico, because an American had shot the trial judge, evidently. That, and Senator Wyden is calling upon the DEA to investigate what may be drug trafficking crimes related to Epstein, not just sex trafficking. My name is Dina Dahl with the Midas Touch Network. Let's break this down. Now, as we know, there are millions of documents that were released in that last release of the Epstein files, and people are still combing through them. Well, El País, Spanish newspaper with a Mexican edition, is talking about this FBI informant's email. FBI informant Ken Turner sent 18 emails to an NYPD detective. In one of these emails, he asks specifically, he says, "We've had another serious incident since an American shot the trial judge in our child sex trafficking case here." He and I both think this latest incident is tied to the fact we have reached out to your team. Who on your team knows we are talking to you? Anyone assigned from NSA, CIA, or US State Department? ? Please understand, people's lives here are in jeopardy. And he sent that on July 27th, 2019. As we know, Jeffrey Epstein was in New York getting charged, arrested for his sex trafficking scheme at that time in New York. And here you have this informant saying evidently an American had shot a judge in a sex trafficking trial in Mexico, and this informant believing that somehow there was a leak in his communication with the NYPD detective. Now, of course, we don't know, can't confirm the truth of his statement. This is the problem with independent reporters, even legacy media, having to comb through these documents ourselves, because we don't have the investigative tools, the ability to actually question somebody under oath to figure out if somebody is telling the truth or not. We have to instead be reading their emails, because the DOJ and the FBI did not do their jobs. But calling out these emails, because there certainly should be more attention on it here in the United States. As I said, El País already reporting on this, but I haven't seen any reporting. On August 10th, 2019, the same informant emails, "Just heard about Epstein. Based upon what we have discovered here and who was involved here in Mexico, we don't believe it was suicide. When you have 5 minutes, you need to listen to what we have as evidence." So much coming out in the release of these Epstein files. So much still to come out in these Epstein files. We need somebody in law enforcement to be able to do the right things here for what seems to be survivors worldwide of Epstein's abuse. Him and all of the men and connected to him, and women, anybody who was connected to this. Now, Senator Wyden, as we know, he has been just on top of this. He's been on top of the banking. Now also sending a letter to the DEA saying that they need to investigate what has come out in these files about the fact that Epstein may very well have been involved with drug trafficking, not just with human trafficking or sex trafficking. He says in his letter, "As you may be aware, federal records recently unsealed by the Department of Justice indicate that Epstein and members of the criminal organization were the target of a major investigation by the DEA for illicit financial activity tied to drug trafficking, according to a heavily redacted memo prepared in 2015 by the director of the DEA's Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Forces. Epstein and 14 other co-conspirators were being investigated for their involvement in illegitimate wire transfers, which were tied to illicit drug and or prostitution activities occurring in the U.S. Virgin Islands and New York City." And he goes on to say that in order for that department, that specific task force to be involved, it had to be a massive, major drug trafficking activity that they don't investigate the lower level or minor ones. So Senator Wyden, as always, coming out in front, trying to get accountability. Interestingly, if you remember, he also sent a letter not that long ago to the director of the CIA itself. It was a very short, cryptic type letter that really just said to the CIA director, by the way, I sent you a classified letter